Okay, I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. First thing, we have assignment for request for council action. We have 20-27 budget amendment, 2028, then and now for Trident Insurance Law Department, 2029 ratify agreement with Teamsters Local 436, 2030 then and now Nature's Own Source LLC Street Department, 2031 expenditure upgrade city PCs, laptop and Windows 10 MNJ Technologies, 2032 expenditure for software solutions finance department, 2033 discussion establishing steering committee for comprehensive plan update, 2034 bids for job 1069 2020 pavement marking program, 2035 bids for project 1063 remark airfield for the airport, 2036 consent legislation with ODOT bridge replacement State Route 3 project number 1046, 2037 engineering design services Westmouth Railroad bridge repairs, 2038 City Hall parking deck change order stormwater detention location, 2039 cooperative purchase mobile columns lift for the service department. Number 2 and number 4 deal with the parking deck. Number 2 was the 2022 construction manager at risk fees combined core project, and 2027 was a budget amendment for the Muni share of the construction manager at risk. We're going to table those because we had a meeting, if you recall, last week with the county commissioners, and they did not have a chance to vote on this yet, so we really don't have any direction of what we're doing with that. I think the meeting went well. I think we had some good open dialogue about the status of the combined project and the next steps and defining where we're going to go, which was great. But as far as these items, number 2 and number 4, I think is a little premature yet, and we don't have the information. Mayor, you have anything to add to that?
When I talked with the county, their proposed timeline is tomorrow's the 11th, the 18th. They expect to pass it, which would line us up then for the 24th meeting to bring it back to finance. So that's the hope right now, unless something changes out there. We won't know that. I asked them to let me know once they pass it for sure, and then we won't keep putting it on if we're not quite ready for it.
And I think the answer at the meeting had to deal with once the construction manager at risk is engaged, then we can have a better idea of exactly the size, how this is going to work, what it's going to look like, because right now they're still doing kind of conceptual plans. So. Any questions on that?
So I have a question about the courthouse and the authorization that the city might offer. Isn't it premature for the city to authorize the construction manager at risk fees?
Yes, that's what we're talking
when
about.
there's no contract?
That's what we're talking about. We're not doing it tonight.
Okay, I just got here.
Oh, yes, no, I saw you walk in. We're tabling number 2 and number 4.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to wait till the commissioners decide if they're entering into it, and then we can.
When
make
they
that.
have an agreement, okay.
Yes, that's
Okay,
right.
thanks,
That's what we're doing.
thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so those 2 are tabled. So number 3 is, I guess there's a motion to approve the MCRC sponsorship. Mr. Wright, you sent us around a little picture. I think there it is. If anybody wants to look at it, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, that was just the color one last time, and it was in black and white, so if you guys want to see the color. The same one you approved last month, except they added a face now that they two decided to team up the realtors and do one design. So that's the new design she's going to get approved.
Okay. Anybody have any questions about the sponsorship? That one's in color.
Have somebody else make the motion. Make a motion to approve the sponsorship.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain.
Vote. Again, 1 no and 1 abstention. 5 yeas, 1 nay, 1 abstention. Okay. 2028 and then and now for Trident Insurance for the Law Department. Is this Lori's issue or is this Keith? Mr. Huber.
I think it was just a pay for legal services, and our initial board of control was dated the 7th, and the invoice came in dated January 1st.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? Mr. Huber, anything to add?
No, I think Lori said that perfectly.
All right.
Move to approve with the emergency clause. Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2029 ratifying Teamsters Local 436 agreement. Okay?
I'll start, and then Nino can fill in any details if you need. So currently, there's just a few minor changes to the contract. The uniform section had the city providing each union member with $150 allowance, and we added a provision that, as an alternative, the city can provide uniforms, because what we found is some of them are not replacing them, or they don't look as good as we would like our staff to look. So this way we can control that a little bit better, and we already have the quotes to provide them so many while the rest are at the cleaners, and then they bring the new ones in cleaned, and they take the next. So it's just a constant rotation, and they come right to the city garage to get them, which would be much more convenient for the workers. The wages were negotiated and voted by the Teamsters, not signed the contract, but voted by the Teamsters as acceptable for 2.5% this year, 2.5%, 2.5% in 2021, and 2.75% in 2022. The 2020 will be retroactive at January 1st. In exchange for the wages, the persons participating in the wellness program increased from paying 12% share of the premium to 13%, and there's a chance in 2020 or 2021, if the city sees an increase of 1% or more in premium rates, that would go from 13 then to 14. Not each year a percent, but one or the other. The other, which is a little bit more significant, is in order to incentivize more people to take part in the wellness program, we're raising the non-participation premium contribution from 16% to 20%. So an increase of 4%. And Nino did a great job with the Teamsters group and their business agent, and feel this is a fair and reasonable contract for both the city and for the employees.
Thank you. Mr. Pacoli?
I think the mayor covered it well. It was a good exercise, and I think it's fair and equitable on both sides. Two of the supervisors are here in the back that were also on the team, so Jansen and our superintendents were instrumental in getting this done and worked out well.
Just so everybody knows, and I covered this a while back, I mean, over the 5 years, I can't remember what, I think it was around 200,000. There's a difference in the budget over the 5 years. I'm talking citywide, because usually as one contract goes, they all go, which includes the city employees who are not in a collective bargaining unit. So that's going to have an impact over the 5-year period, just so we're aware of how that impacts the general fund. And so we'll look at that throughout the year, just so we're cognizant of how that's going to affect future years. But that's kind of the impact currently for the 5-year budget. But I think it's great that they do a great job, and the changes in the contract to help provide them additional help too is going to be beneficial.
I agree. If the wellness, if everybody participates in wellness, we should theoretically get the savings back, so that the money in the general fund shouldn't be impacted, maybe even maybe positively.
Sure, with the savings of the healthcare premiums, and hopefully, yes.
Right.
Guess the other thing I'd offer is that, with recent new industry expansions, we've found with the new businesses we're adding every month, we're hoping to see the income tax start to swell, and a reasonable percentage of that income tax goes into supplement the general fund as well.
Right.
Right.
No, I think you're right. I think things are going well, and the employees are working hard, and, we have to make sure we continue to have those employees. And keep them happy. You guys happy back there? Yeah, good. Yeah. That's good. Everybody's happy. Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
2030 then and now for Nature's Own Source for the street department.
I have that one, Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this purchase was made in December, was when we were closing the year end out, and there wasn't a border control session held. The amount was $3,500 for some de-icing material. The PO wasn't created then until January 14th, and we had snow and ice events going on at that time, minimal, but we still had some activity, so that's where we're at.
Now, Mr. Bacoli, the stuff we're buying, I mean, we had a report about the radioactivity of the de-icing stuff, what did you find out?
I contacted ODOT, the District 3 Transportation Manager, and inquired whether they were using the Aqua Salina. And I was under the understanding that they use it only during extreme cold temperatures, and they did have some of that material. At the same time, I told them that there was some discussion which was brought to our attention, all of us that have not heard before, and our law director. So in looking at that, he sent over a 152-page file, which I wasn't going to open and read the entire file, because I understood that the summary was in the back. There was a 4-page summary from ODNR, which I believe I forwarded to the council. Did I, Kathy?
Yes, you did.
Okay. So in that executive summary, understanding, I'm not a scientist, but the levels in the production of this material, it does not increase the radioactivity in the RA-226 and the RA-228. I don't know exactly what that means, other than we use it minimally. We are not going to purchase any more. Today in Board of Control, we passed a purchase order request to purchase liquid calcium chloride. So at this point, we're not going to use that material.
Okay.
So if you're finished, okay, a few things. First of all, they're saying it didn't produce more radium, okay? It's already in there. What he's using, it's in there from the ground. Okay, but second thing is, did any of you read the Rolling Stone article that I provided to you?
Mhm.
Okay, because I think your constituents should know. And with that in mind, on April 16th, the Rolling Stone author, Justin Noble, and the fire chief from Youngstown will be here to give a presentation. I just got it set up, so I don't have the venue yet, but you will be invited to hear what they...
Well, it seems like
they
what
support.
we're doing on using calcium chloride is different than what the other things, so I think we're,
It sounds like you're not going to purchase it.
Right.
Correct.
But I'm just informing you that... they
so your
will be
information
here.
was good, so,
Yes, and I'm glad you read it, and you'll be invited to the presentation
Okay.
because they use it for dust control and public restrooms too. So I don't know if they're using it in your public restroom, but
don't think they
it's
do.
educational
Yeah, no,
to know.
we appreciate it, we appreciate it.
If I may, Mr. President, we purchased this after speaking with ODOT. 12 districts in Ohio, ODOT use it as pre-treat. The city of Edina does not pre-treat. We mix some in, not that it makes any better, but pre-wet salt on state route activity. So when you see those striations on the roads and the county roads and the state routes, that's what that was
Yeah.
from ODOT. And
Right.
so we use it minimally when we did, but again, we're using calcium chloride, and we just piggyback on what ODOT uses.
Sure, gotcha.
And so you won't use it for sidewalks or anything either.
We do not.
But that's good.
We do not
Thank
use it
you.
for
Yeah.
sidewalks or restrooms. I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully, that's a good thing that, if there's anything that's hazardous to people, of course, we don't want to use it, so.
I'll let you know in the presentation
Okay.
where it's going to be and so forth. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause. Second, including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2031 expenditure for 29 PCs, 10 laptops, licensing from MNJ Technologies. Sorry?
Thank you, Mr. President. To avoid a filibuster, I'll try to brief this, and then you guys can ask questions. But the long story short is, Windows 7 died January 14th of this year. It's no longer supported by Microsoft. We've known this
Who
for a
killed
year.
it?
Microsoft. We've known this for a year, but like I normally do, I run everything to the rev limiter and then make the expenditures. So I did this, we're a little over date, but last year we skipped PC replacement cycle altogether because I knew that was coming. And I knew based on our roughly 100 machines, 120 machines, we're getting 5 years out of these machines. So when we amortize these machines, we're paying about $275 a year. We buy OEM licensing to them because what we're finding now is for once, the hardware is outlasting these operating systems. Microsoft's not writing operating systems faster than the hardware. So it's a turn in our benefit financially in savings. So long story short, we're to that juncture where we've got part of our PC replacement cycle plus a couple extras because they're at Windows 7. We're here. We've got to buy 29 machines. That gets rid of all of our network that have Windows 7 on it and introduces some newer ones that are 5 years old. for some Windows 10. Includes open voluming licensing, so it's our latest Office, which is our Word, our Excel, PowerPoint, those things. Their state bid pricing on these Dell computers through M&J. And then what we did was, we normally cover the PCs and we allow each department to decide if they need laptops and they fund those themselves. But in this case, like the whole city has got Windows 7 laptops, so they've got to go. So rather than having each department come to Board of Control with an individual expenditure for the laptop, I figured I would just come and argue their case as well. They'll be funding those things, but the long story short is we came up with about 10 laptops that various departments, from the airport to mechanics to fire to police, that use for the speed signs, those will all be in that, and those entities will replace them.
City Council.
Questions? Anybody understand what he said?
Oh, it's scary. I can't.
He's good.
All right,
He's good.
let's check.
He brings it down to my level.
All right, well, good. Then we have you on here then. Sitting there looking at him, saying, whoa.
He's got it right, he's got it right. And to stretch the equipment out to the end of the software like that, that's good. Yeah, we probably could bounce along with a few of the machines, maybe some of the network machines at 7, but do it now, get it out of the way so we don't have to worry about it later.
And when will these be in?
Well, M&J is pretty fast to deliver. I'd like to think that when I tell them it's a go, we'll get it within a month, 3 weeks-ish.
So just before summer, then, by the time this goes through the process, we should have.
Nah, I'd like to have them deployed by spring. You know, we can mirror and clone these machines, so once we build our one model,
Okay.
then we can duplicate these things and start pushing
Send
them
them
out
out.
real fast. We actually push the image down from the servers, and we can do that.
So by April?
Set up a lab. I'm shooting for that. If everything goes for April, May,
Okay.
it could bleed in there a little longer depending on what other projects come. Like last time we were here, we got to do our network switches. We finally got those coming. That's my priority right now, is to get those switches deployed. That's going to take some time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Move to approve. You had the emergency clause also?
You know, I didn't. I don't like to do that to council.
Okay.
I figure in this case, we're already overdue January 14th. An extra 2 weeks isn't going to be a game changer.
We appreciate that.
I figured.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
2032 expenditure for software solutions for the finance department.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, that is our annual software support for our accounting software in the finance department. This year, the cost is $38,191.65. Went up around $2,000 from what we paid last year. And that covers all of the different modules that we have.
And this is the updated one, right? This is one we have a dashboard on and all that?
Well, this one's for our current support since we're still on the old version.
Oh, okay.
But I think the support should stay similar for next year.
I got you.
But I thought with the new software that we were getting, there was going to be a year's worth of support anyway. And when are we scheduled to make that transition?
We are just starting, working with the vendor right now. We're filling out questionnaires and we don't have a timeline in place yet. They're working on when that might be, hopefully towards late fall this year.
That will be up and running on the
Running.
new. So that-
The server is built here on our domain. We have our virtualized server, and what the plan is from a technical standpoint is we're going to allow them to remote in and install their software and get their database copied over and run these two systems parallel. And Keith, we better test this, but there's a very short window that the migration works nice for finance, basically
Yeah.
closing and all that stuff. I don't want to speak out of turn there. And the last I had heard was that there was a nice window in October. So I think we're kind of tentatively shooting for them to have their ducks in a row. From the city side, we're ready to roll. I mean, hardware's there, ready to go with them, get going, and then we just gotta time it just right with that cutover.
Finance has a lot of training we have to do before we get there, so.
Okay, I'm just looking at, we're paying a year's worth of maintenance. We should get something back once we cut over to the
Right.
new. If my memory serves me right, that we're paying for some maintenance in
That was
with the new
bundled.
software.
There was some bundled support in that original quote for the new system.
Okay. Questions?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2033 discussion for comprehensive plan steering committee. Jonathan?
Yes, thank you. So you have my memorandum there. So as we move forward with issuing an RFP later this week to get, to seek consultants for creation of a new comprehensive plan for the city of Medina, we need to create a steering committee so that we can be ready to go. So on the memo, we've got listed of voting entities, non-voting entities. Just want to give that to you guys to take a look at it, see if there's any other entities you want to add or not. I would recommend not adding more. It's pretty comprehensive to the various entities. And once it gets beyond 11 to 15 people, it gets pretty unwieldy type of, from voting members, unwieldy size. So as we go through this, I would just say, if there's additions or deletions or whatnot, just let me know, and then my department, we can work on coordinating with all the different various entities. I think the one that's probably gonna be a bit of a shot in the dark is the 1 to 3 City of Medina residents, because that's various, 27,000 people potentially to choose from, or 1/3, given the adults.
We have a couple of them sitting right here.
We have a bunch of city residents right here in the room. Yes.
That's what I need. Yeah.
So take a look at those. If there's anybody that you want to know, let me know. Or if there's additional groups to include, let me know. So that way, it'll take about probably 4 to 6 weeks to go through the RFP and consultant selection process. But in order to get it moving right away, we really need that steering committee to be kind of set, ready to go, so start doing its job.
And for the city residents that's sitting here, Mrs. Kirby, Mr. Sheets, and Mr. Moran.
Issue 3, 1, 2, 3.
How often will you be?
That'll be
meeting?
determined by when we hire a consultant, determine what that process looks like, what the timeline looks like. Typically, a steering committee is gonna be after each kind of major part of the process. So steering committee might meet 4 to 5 times over the period of the process, at most. It's not too much, given the nature of our community. We probably have to do it in the evenings, just to be able to get residents, although there are residents that are available during work days, but that tends to maybe not get a lot of these other entities available as well. So we'll coordinate all that, the specific logistics of meeting dates and times and whatnot, but we just kind of want to get this committee put together and ready to get moving once we are substantively into the process.
Bill?
I would like to completely relook at that kind of a committee. We had a comprehensive plan that outlived its usefulness, but even in the period of time that it might have been useful, we hardly ever used it. And if you look at the way the committee is put together, we always seem to return back to the I don't know what you would call them, the interior group of folks. It's the same organizations, the same people, and they're basically the people that you talk to all the time. I think sometimes it's good to have something that's something that is, in fact, unwieldy, because then you might get some surprisingly interesting results. And I would rather that the committee would be put together with the vast majority of the people be regular folks who actually live in town, who come in contact with each and everything. If you look at the old comprehensive plan, they would come in contact or find usefulness or have an issue with the things that were raised in the plan, many of them on a daily basis, because they are here. They get up and they dress their kids, and their kids get on the bus and they go to school, or they walk their kid to school, or they have an issue at a park, or they would like to have another park. But if we continually have the same group of people, you simply always get the same result. So I would like us to go right back to whatever the idea was to put this together, that looks like something that we probably had before, that is made up of the exact same groups, which will give you the exact same people, that have the exact same ideas, with the exact same input, the exact same biases, and go outreach to a large group of these 27,000 people that we have who are impacted and will be impacted over the 10-year maybe life, or whatever the life will be of the next comprehensive plan. But it should certainly be heavily weighted to the majority of the steering committee should be just residential people, people that maybe we don't know. Or we were jokingly saying, I mean, people like Stan or Skip, folks that we can bring into the process. Bring in some younger people maybe, bring in some folks that are echelon up, and bring in some people that live in that kind of an environment. Bring in younger people who certainly have children, not people that are connected to us. So this idea, this kind of Siamese idea we have, that we always want familiarity, and familiarity does not breed new and exceptional ideas. So I mean, I won't support, I will support it if we can re-engineer this steering committee. You know, I spent a lot of time with the last comprehensive plan and the failures of the last comprehensive plan. Not that there weren't great ideas, but that there were many ideas that were just never acted on. And there was a lot in that comprehensive plan that probably didn't belong in there in the first place. But I want to ensure that council has a strong voice in the configuration of this, and in the follow-through on this, and the majority appointment to this steering committee.
So are you saying you want to work with Jonathan to come up with a different format?
Absolutely.
Jonathan, are you willing to work with Mr. Lamb?
Absolutely.
Can you guys get it done? I mean, we got a schedule we want to try to keep, so if you can come up with some kind of information by the next meeting so we can relook at it?
Absolutely.
You're not going on vacation, are you?
Nope.
Okay, you're not going on vacation.
I am.
You are.
Where are you going?
I'm going to Palm Springs.
Do you think you have time to still communicate?
I think I can.
Well, can you next time bring it back and we'll go over to see if there's any kind of difference in the voting members and non-voting, and see who can, the makeup of the committee?
Yeah, I'll bring it back for the first meeting in March, the next finance committee meeting. That's actually the end of February, so never mind. Yeah.
I was like, hey.
Even sooner, 24.
Yeah.
And you'll wait to vote on it all day.
Well, the next meeting is, you're going to miss the next meeting?
Yeah, you know that.
You want your cake and eat it too, huh?
You want a lot of things. Well, if you
That's
can
why
come
I
up,
ran. That's why I'm here.
if you can come up with a solution, that'll be great. I mean, I get what you're saying, and it makes sense.
Thank you.
But I guess the question is participation. I mean, a lot of people.
But we can't always stop with that thing, like, I think people won't participate,
Well, no,
so
if you
let's
can-
not get
you know, if
them.
you get a participation, I'd love it. But that's what we have to try to do.
Well, but it isn't a try to do, it is that you can do it, but you won't do it if you simply fall back on the folks you think you can count on, who are great people, but you'll get the same ideas. And we need to have significant input from the broader community.
So are you, Bill, just to clarify, are you suggesting on limiting not obviously the administration or council, but the historic preservation board, board of planning and zoning and the...
Yeah, because you can bring all those people in. You can sit here and you can bring in, you know, people from the chamber, people from the school, people from HBB, people from CDC or whatever. You can bring them in and you can have the discussion, you can ask the questions, but they don't have to be the committee. Each of those groups really are specific, they are generally specific issue.
I just wanted to
groups.
clarify.
Yeah.
I didn't understand.
It's just my thinking.
Stan?
I thought Bill's comments were well taken. The other thing I'd like to emphasize is 90% of these comprehensive plans do just sit on the shelf, and they're not implemented at all. I've been involved in at least 16 of them throughout the county, villages, townships, and cities, and it's the same everywhere. The biggest thing is trying to implement some of the things rather than simply using them as a defense mechanism to stop things. So I really concur with you, and I think you need to get some entrepreneurs involved also. They're people that are going to come up with creative potential options for you to consider. And thank you.
Thank you. All right, Bill, Jonathan? It's up to you. Eric?
Just a question on how we find this diverse group. Do we have an application process, do we think, or do we put it out to the public? That, you know, how do we find these people? Because like you said, if we're going to the same people that are always in the room, probably who we know, right?
Bob? Bob's here from the Gazette.
You can help, sir.
I don't want anything to do with it.
Why don't we just put it on
No,
Facebook now?
Eric's got a great, I mean, that's the question, that's the outreach question, though, that's always the same kind of as, will they participate, which is, well, where do we get them? And I noticed that when we've talked about the courthouse, the room filled up. And I noticed when we talked about the equality legislation, the room filled up. And I'm sure that if you present to people the possibility of actually having input in the direction that the city will go over a period of a decade, that we can come up with people as long as we publicize it and get the message out. And there's a lot of creative ways we can do it. You do it when we've done it when you're campaigning. We've done it when we want to have a fundraiser. We've done it when, we do it all the time. That cannot be the obstacle. We don't want to just go to the people we know. And I think we won't have any trouble finding people once we put the plan together and we talk about it. I think people will be happy to do it, because if you have a plan that's put together by a group of folks, more likely those people are probably more likely to want to look at to follow up on the plan to see if the things are being implemented because they wanted to put them in the plan, than if we go back to the same standard, cookie cutter group of, what everybody always does to put together a plan and then everybody ignores it.
Skip?
Well, as you know, I don't like to get involved, but I accept Bill's nomination of me to be on the committee.
Kimberly?
So I think Mr. Mendel, Mr. Lamb, and Mr. Sheets all make excellent points. The only thing I would suggest is if we're going to have residents involved, like Jonathan's list has 1 to 3, but we have 4 wards, so I think we should have 1 resident from each ward. And we could put out in the city newsletter that we're looking for residents to participate in the steering committee, or whatever we're calling it. And then also through our social media, if you need some help with that, we could put that on our city's Facebook page to maybe generate some interest, because we have, is it like 1,500 now, Barbara, on the newsletter? Close. So we have about 1,500 people that the newsletter goes out to, which is a mix, to Stan's point, of entrepreneurs and business people and residents. And then we have, I think, another 4,500, 4,600 people following us on Facebook. So that's a pretty big list of people that you might generate some interest.
Wait, Jess?
Thank you. What is the vetting process? Who is vetting these individuals?
I don't even think we have that.
I don't think we're there yet.
Are we just pulling them out of a hat?
No, let's take let's take a little bit of time, put together something.
All right.
And then we can figure out how do you outreach? What's the formation of the group? Who are we looking for? What we're looking for, and then what you said, like vetting them, which is usually what is a divided up process. Like you pick 5, I'll pick 5, whatever.
First of all, Kimberly and Barbara, excellent newsletter every week. My wife and I really enjoy it. To Stan's point, in my tenure on council, the only time that the comprehensive plan has come into question is when there's rezoning, planning and rezoning changes, requests, and expansion of whatever district it may be. So I understand that we may have disagreed as a body with some of the suggestions from the previous comprehensive plan, but I just don't see that there's that often that the comprehensive plan in my tenure, where it's come up to say, God, we need to follow this because we need, like your one suggestion. Maybe somebody's going to say we need more parks. It is a guideline. I hope and pray that we don't get to the point that this would be codified. It is going to be a suggestion, but and it is an important document that I think as a body and administration that we should be able to follow. But again, after this procedure's done, I think it's the only time it's going to come into question where we're more likely to be able to look at it and follow it is on zoning request and the planning and zoning. I think that's where most of the time that it comes into question.
But it was much bigger than that, actually. I mean, it had.
Oh, no, I understand.
It was a good
No.
part that was like an action plan. When I made that proposal that we buy a piece of property for a pocket park,
Mhm.
well, when that plan was put together, that was in I don't know how many sections of that comprehensive plan was the importance of having neighborhood pocket parks, and we never did. We never did them. Expansion of the streetlights, expansion of the historic district. it talked about streets, it talked about traffic, different kinds of traffic controls, which we never did any of those things. And none of them had any relationship to really to zoning. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, because I didn't bring it with me, but I had detailed pretty much through the whole comprehensive plan that it appeared to me that, actually as Stan said, it was typically what happened. It was a plan on a shelf that some people took a lot of time to put together. And that's why I think that if we look at it from a different direction, whatever we put in, maybe people will actually look at it and try to implement those things. Because most of what was in the comprehensive plan that would have been actionable was never implemented.
Jonathan?
I mean, I wasn't trying to be negative.
No, I know you aren't, never. I love you, Dan. I love you, Dan.
I know you do.
I'd love to hear your voice.
Just to remind that the typical creation process for a comprehensive plan has multiple just general public meetings where everybody comes together and a SWOT analysis or something, and the steering committee is there to kind of help refine that pile of information into a more concise pile of information that's, with the consultant's expertise and everything pulled together. But I can definitely see where you're coming from, Bill, about, weighting it probably more toward, residents and everybody. So it's just that the steering committee isn't the committee putting it together. That's the entity that helps refine and consolidate the information that's generated at typically several public meetings where the general public comes and talks through all the pieces and wants and desires and dislikes and all those types of items, so.
But the only other comment I would make, and I agree with you, Bill, I think, 27,000 people in the city of Medina, we should get some fresh ideas. But I don't want to discourage people that the Kirbys, the Sheets, the Barans, that have been involved with the city, whether it be on different organizations, or some of them just coming to our meetings and following what we do. I think that they're important too, so I hope that they're, your
No,
discussions.
I absolutely agree with you. Those are the people that they're not, as I said, they are not in this list actually, unless we were to pick them out now. There would be, and that we would, if we took the 4 people that are here, that would pretty much be it for us. That's all we could appoint.
I totally understand what
we
you're
could
saying.
appoint them now if we wanted to. Not both Kirbys though, because I can't handle both.
I know, just one. I was gonna say Tammy, definitely. Just saying.
I'm the more important one, though.
I can't see Rick, he's blocked by the pole.
But if we get a residence from each ward, does the list also have maybe a business from each ward?
That's a good idea. I mean,
So that you get both.
if you have suggestions, you can always email Jonathan or Bill to get, let them know your suggestions as far as organization of the committee. Appreciate that.
But I agree with Jonathan, you can't get it too big because.
I want it big. I want it big.
I understand the steering committee though, I don't think you want the steering committee.
The steering committee though think about what does that mean? That's like when we were kids in the backseat of the car and your dad got to steer. Let's let some other people drive. That's my point, is let's not give the power just to an interior group. Let's expand it out. Let other people have a voice.
Well, I think the question that you're raising too is that it's almost impossible to get everybody in a room to do that, but you're correct, with social media, you could put questions out there and there could be responses that they're not in person, but they're ideas that can be flowed through social media. Maybe the answer to your question is the involvement of social media is here today, and maybe we should take advantage of that somehow.
Well, and to that point, actually, you did a survey.
Yes, I did
believe.
a-
And how many people responded to that survey?
I did a Google Analytics survey on my council page, and I had 150 people. I asked them what ward they were from. A majority of people that answered were from Ward 1. But it provided a lot of really useful information.
Well, maybe we could try to figure out how to use that, and maybe that's
Sure.
part of the information is the physical committee could be somewhat broad but contained, but use social media to get the questions out, to get a broader view of the community.
Yeah, we should use social media. We should use it more effectively because we can get an enormous amount of outreach. to
Well, I mean,
people.
that's the future, we know
It
that.
is.
10 years from now, that's maybe how we're having meetings, I don't know. But okay, but try to coordinate that to get that information, but you have a lot of good ideas, so.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to number 11, 2034 bids for the 2020 pavement marketing program. Where's that, Patrick?
Yeah, thank you. We first did this program last year, and it was pretty successful, so Bill Davis, the street department, would like to continue it. Basically, we're just bidding out for the pavement marking across the city
So 50,000.
for 50,000.
It seemed like it took did it take a long time to get the marking done last year?
They didn't start until late in the year. That's kind of why we wanted to get it out early. They were only on site for the paint marking. They were done in a couple of days. The thermoplastic did take them a couple of weeks.
Is that the crosswalks?
Pardon me?
And the crosswalks?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, because it seemed like the crosswalks, it was late, it seemed later than usual this year.
Yeah, it was.
That was the first time we bid it. Thanks for Pat's efforts on putting this together.
Yeah.
Okay, approved. Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2035 bids, Remark Airfield Muni Court. Mr. Huber, is this you?
No, municipal airport.
Airport, not
Not court.
Municipal
Airport.
airport.
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, Municipal Airport. Mr. Huber, still, is that you? Mr. Huber. Or is it Patrick?
This is me. Council accepted a grant from ODOT to remark our airfield. So this would be the request to go ahead and bid that project. One thing I need to note, in our grant request, or grant application, we tried to get money for crack sealing. That was denied. We were only granted money for the remarking the airfield. We'd like to include that in the bill, in the project, though. It's really, it wouldn't be a smart idea to remark the airfield without crack sealing. So the cost of that would be on the city, but the grant itself would pay for $95,950 in total.
Okay, any other questions? Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2036 consent legislation with ODOT for bridge replacement State Route 3. Patrick?
This, ODOT's got a project this summer for the bridge on Weymouth Road, just south of Union. It's going to be replaced this summer, and they are asking us for this consent legislation, basically saying we understand and we give you our blessing. There's no cost to the city for this. It's just kind of accepting the project.
Questions?
So Patrick, exactly where is the bridge?
It's on Route 3.
Between Friendship and
Yeah.
Right by
You
the
know where the
lake
big
there.
pond is on the northwest
Okay.
side there coming out?
And how long of a project?
It is going to be, I think, 60 days. I thought the closure period was in there, but maybe not, but it's a 60-day closure.
That's the
That's the
school.
lake with the spill that goes.
Yes.
I just always worry about the school traffic.
Well, they are trying to do it summertime construction, so they wouldn't do it until June.
You ain't gonna do that.
Yeah.
You said try.
That's the plan right now.
All right, any other questions? Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And 2037 Engineering Design Services, West Smith Road Railroad Bridge repairs. Patrick?
Yes, this is a project we've been kind of keeping our eye on for the last couple of years. We do annual bridge inspections, and a little bit of corrosion and coating problems on this particular bridge, the rail bridge on West Smith. It's been recommended that we do a repair project. With our getting the grant for the West Smith Road reconstruction, we'd like to get this done before that project starts. Fair Dermody is the consulting engineers that did the inspection. They do all the work for Wheeling and Lake Erie. I would ask, Greg reviewed their contract and made several requests to change, so approval, please, under the law director's review.
Okay.
So that one would be done at the same time as Smith Road's being replaced, so?
Beforehand.
Ahead of time.
Beforehand.
Is it gonna close the road?
It shouldn't. There might be daily lane closures, but it won't be totally closed. It's not a major structural project, it's more some erosion that they want to take care of, recoding, that kind of thing.
Okay.
along with the project.
That I'm not sure. I can't imagine more than 30 days or so, but I can find out for sure.
And not during Fair Week.
Not during Fair Week, yeah.
That's a good call.
Good point, yeah.
Okay.
Move to approve subject to law director's approval of the final contract.
That's second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 2038 City Hall parking deck change order. Is this the one that's under construction now? Stormwater detention location.
Technically it is.
All right, check.
One of the things we've been looking at, not necessarily to do with the parking deck, but the future building lot there between Sully's and the federal building. We know we need to bring stormwater detention into that location, which would limit the size of the lot, basically the frontage. We've kind of been looking at toying with alternatives. The one that we came up with was moving this detention to the east side of the lot. It would be kind of closer to Sully's, under the driveway. Doing that, that full width of the lot would be able to be used for future development. We're only going to be able to discuss this here tonight. One of the concerns we had was with any objections the GSA and the federal courthouse or federal building might have. We've contacted them, they haven't responded yet. The objections being that our zoning regulations allow this building to be built up right up to the property line. They, as you know, had some, I don't want to say objections, but concerns about the parking deck. So we'd like to hear if they have any concerns about potentially a building right up to the property line before we recommend to go further. And also, we just weren't able to get costs from CPS for everything today. But I thought maybe we'd discuss and see if there's something you want us to keep pushing forward on. It will be costly to move it. Specifically, there's storm sewer in the street isn't low enough to handle it on the east side now. We can rectify that by extending the storm sewer from Elmwood to basically Sully's. There will be a cost to that. We're assuming about $60,000 for that, in addition to other costs associated with CPS and then them having to move their whole operation to that side. So there will be a cost to this, and I guess I wanted to discuss and see if it's something council thinks we should keep looking into.
You kept mentioning cost, that was the 5th time you said it. I think that the reason this came up is because of the building to be located on Liberty there. If you have 22 feet by 140, that's about 3,000 square feet of additional space per floor. So the economic impact would be, you have to weigh the two. What's the economic impact of keeping the storm detention basin at the current location as opposed to moving it under the drive aisle, let's call it, that comes off of Liberty? And over the term of years, I think it would be more beneficial to have the building larger than a area that has a stormwater detention, when you can actually move that under a road so you can have more building. Yes, Mayor.
Well, just for the council's benefit, Kimberly reached out to Brian Cooper, who did the TIF analysis for us, and asked him if we reduce this by 3,000 square foot. So you multiply that times 3 floors, it's 9,000, or it's 12 if we would go 4 floors. But even on the lower, his estimate would reduce his assumptions of the annual TIF service payments by $25,420 per year, or $762,600 over 30 years, which is the TIF under all of the things that all the parameters that we did so far. So, and then of course, if we went 4 floors, that would be $33,900 per year, or $1,017,000 less as a result if we build retail on 3 floors of apartments.
And that's just
So
the tax act.
Exactly, just the taxes, yes, because of the difference in value of that reduction of 3,000 square feet. Now, the hangup that we have is what Patrick, so that's the cost benefit analysis. It's going to cost a little bit to move it, but is it worth it for this volume of money that's still going to come in the TIF? But we're still kind of hang up until we see what's acceptable to the GSA and federal folks, how close is too close. our zoning permits us to come to the property line, but their regulations may order us to stay so many feet away from it. And if that's the case, until we know the answer to that, maybe we can't be any closer than this.
Or they may require new windows or something like that on that side of the building.
Right. I think that's already been discussed, right? On the west side of the buildings, they didn't want windows. There might also be a proximity.
Sure.
So,
Well, let's get the answer. I mean, it sounds from an economic impact perspective, it's a good idea to make the move, but until we know the rest of the answers to the questions, we kind of stuck.
yes, sir.
Hopefully we'll have those by the next meeting here.
Any other questions you want to ask? Okay.
Thank you.
2039 expenditure for mobile column lifts from the service department. Mr. Pacoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this request is for a set of 6 mobile column lifts for heavy-duty trucks. It's a $95,484 purchase. As you can see, proposed division of cost is between the sanitation and the street department, the fire department, water, and vehicle maintenance. This is a state bid item. We did look and keep an eye on BWC as I coordinate with our rep from BWC, hoping that there would be a lift grant for safety, and there's not going to be. There's a moratorium for whatever reason, that's my understanding. In the past, we purchased, I think, a 16,000 pound lift and a 9,000.
The 9,000 was eons ago.
We have 2. So we've improved, and I guess my point in saying this, in time since we've started the vehicle maintenance department, we've improved efficiency and safety first and foremost. So I've asked the 2 superintendents to come, because you may have questions that these guys are the experts, they work with it every day, and could possibly answer the questions you may have with respect to this request.
Questions?
Obviously, you think it's needed, or you wouldn't put the request in, so. And again, along this, we're going, through the safety first, and then the usability is something that you obviously feel that there's a need for, so I would support it.
Paul, just, could you put a definition of mobile column lift, please?
That's why the experts are here. Go ahead, fellas.
So in the large truck lift setting, you have different varieties of lifts available in order to get the vehicle up to do repairs, preventative maintenance, everything else underneath the vehicle. Currently within our garage, since the conception of it, everything has been done on a creeper. You climb under it, and it's dark, dirty, etc. underneath there. The mobile columns give you the ability to move the columns to the truck within any part of the vicinity in a safe working area. They communicate amongst each other with a communication wire that you plug into each one. Each mobile column has a display on it to where it safely has its own checks and balances, and it cradles the underneath of the tires and lifts the vehicle into the area where you can safely perform your service.
Yeah, these pictures, they're impressive. Okay, thank you.
Amazing.
So we're talking about garbage trucks, fire trucks, entirely lifting the complete vehicle off the ground and working underneath it.
What's the warranties on these, you know?
3 years, sir.
And as far as the durability, have you talked to anybody who uses these, and are they good?
Yes, sir. We went to RTA and we checked out their facility, and they have several sets of them, and they think that the Mohawk ones, they wouldn't have anything other. So that was some RTA in Cleveland is where we went.
As far as they're being mobile, how wide did you say the base was? Because once you lift the truck up that may be 30 feet long, I mean, what's the risk of, I assume that they've calculated all that in, that it's not going to fall over?
Right. The width of the base is 44.5 inches. And yes, they have calculated all that in with the weight.
It's actually larger than the base of your common full post lift. Currently, the city schools, they have one 4-post lift. The county garage has 3 heavy-duty truck lifts and a 4-post lift. Both of those facilities have been designed to accommodate those style of lifts, which they are somewhat a little less expensive, but they're a permanent fixture within their garage. They take anywhere up to 15 feet wide to 50 feet length in space. That space is designated just for that lift. Our city garage, obviously, from its conception as a fire engine station to a city garage, and then obviously with the addition, I wouldn't say it's undersized, but it was never built as a facility just to work on trucks. So with that being said, it was never designed to put something permanent in one place. With these, it gives us the ability to go amongst multiple places within the city garage and use them.
Even outside, I guess.
Yes, even on a level surface outside, you can use them.
Currently, we have 59 vehicles that the only way we can lift them is if we had something like this. Otherwise, we're just using bottle jacks and jack stand, air jacks, and then we can get them approximately a foot off the ground, just to change tires and whatnot. Then we also have 6 pieces of equipment. They'll also pick up the loader, the backhoes, plus they'll pick up any regular pickup truck. If we have stuff on the other 2 racks, it'll also pick up any other small vehicles without a problem.
And if I remember correctly, the ceiling's high enough so if you use these lifts, you're not gonna poke it through the roof. Check it.
And I wanted the gentleman to comment on the crane discussion a little bit, because when we first did the addition, if you recall, crane rails were installed, and that's not dead in the water. So they've been talking to the fire department with respect to moving a crane that's in, I believe, Station 2?
Station 2, correct.
Over to the vehicle maintenance department.
Good.
Other
We talked
questions?
about that when we were constructing the new.
Any other
I was
questions?
very impressed with the picture.
To add, studies show that it's about a 30% increase, or I should say reduction in the amount of time that it takes to do a normal service PM. The reason sanitation is paying for most of this is because sanitation has quite the amount of revolutions in services and et cetera in the department. Just our department alone, punching some rough numbers, they spend almost 500 hours a year just doing services. By doing simple math at $70 an hour, it could be upwards of $10,000 that can be used somewhere else other than just on services.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it'll be a good addition as far as safety is concerned and efficiencies, and who knows, maybe the other townships might use them too. Good charge for that. School buses. You may have 2 school buses at once, you know.
Can we get a picture?
Yeah, Pixar did.
Any other questions? So to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, anything else before we go into executive session?
If not, I will make a motion at 6:56 PM to go into executive session to conference with the law director for the public body concerning disputes involving the city that are subject to pending or imminent court action. They include the mayor, the law director, and service director, Dino Capoli.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Lamb?
Yes.
Hazelton?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Boyd?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Pepper?
Yes.
We'll be recessing the executive session to discuss the litigation matters that Mr. Shields mentioned. We'll be coming out of executive session, taking no action of the items we discussed, and then we'll be recessing out of finance and council. For a reason.